All right, everyone, we got our previews now. Got some matches coming up this week. 8 really solid ones. A lot of showdowns with really the big teams going at it. So, a lot of shifts to the standings could be happening here fairly quickly. So, what I want to talk about as we go through this whole situation is let's start with just from a standing standpoint, where are we? All right? So, as it stands right now, we have got a top 7 who is currently able, if their games in hand were to go their way. By the way, when I talk about games in hand, I go by whoever is the leader in the standings. Right now, that would be San Diego. What is their match number played? So right now, they're sitting at 14 played. That would mean teams that have played 13 have 1 match in hand. Teams at 12 have 2 matches in hand. And so if you look at the current table of the NWSL, what's going on is every team right now with a match in hand could get to 27 points and be a single point out of first place. And a team with 2 matches in hand, again, we're talking about the top 7 right now, could win their matches, get to 27 points. Lone exception of this actually being Washington, who has 2 matches in hand and could get to 30 and could take over as the leader. They're the only team right now who could do it just off of matches in hand. And so what we're looking at this point is a standings where 1st through 7th are separated by only 3 points. So now, with all of that said, let's look to all these teams. We've got San Diego. We got Portland currently sitting at the top 2 spots, 14 matches played. San Diego at 26, Portland at 27. Washington, Utah, and Kansas City are all at 24 each. Washington sits at 3rd because they've only played 12 matches, where Utah and Kansas City have played 13. And then you have North Carolina and Gotham, who started a little bit lower early on, but are still at 21 points through 12 matches. So anytime those 7 are going at it, you're potentially talking about a major shift in the standings every time teams like them play. And we've got a couple of those this week. Not all the way again. So let's talk about them. I think it'll be right here. All right, so today, when you start seeing these coming up, we have 4 matches on Friday. One of the busier Fridays we've had in a while. And so Orlando and Kansas City, technically it's the 8th place team in Orlando, so they are the next highest ranked team outside of the top 7. But they have been on a skid. They just got shut out by Angel City, who's sitting right behind them at 9th. And so the conventional wisdom for me is that Kansas City is going to win this match. They've played very hot. Orlando has kind of proven they're a little bit reliant on one striker. And so as I'm looking at this, I view this in the sense that Kansas City is going to take this win, which will open the door for a couple of teams here. Specifically, the next ones in line would be Angel City, Denver, Seattle, Houston. All of them are currently within 3 points of Orlando, so a defeat from Orlando kind of sets everyone up for some big success. And I'm going to say it's probably definitive. I do think Orlando does score this time, but I think Kansas City gets them 3-1. Next up, we have another bottom 4 matchup, Boston and Chicago, coming out of Foxborough. As far as I know, I think this game actually is in Foxborough. I don't think there are any more matches taking place there, so I think they're in the clear. But, yeah, right now, I would say Legacy have the upper hand being at home, but both came off very big, successful weeks last week. Chicago pulling off a big upset in their own right, taking down Utah. Boston making a big comeback after being down 0-2 to salvage a point against Bay. I'm going to say they can pull it again. I'm going to say 2-1. They beat Chicago at home, which will solidify them a little bit more in the table as they try to get themselves out of the bottom corner. Meanwhile, Bay has all four of the bottom four are going against each other here. So Bay travels to Racing Louisville, who is they're in a state right now. This has been a rough time for them. I would normally favor the home team here, especially since Bay took a bit of a lengthy trip last week, and now they're still not all the way back home. But with Louisville, just there's gonna need to be like a full-on overhaul in short order with them. I've not been impressed with what I've seen there. There's some structural issues on that team, in the franchise, that whole in the front office. So I'm going to say Bay does pull this out. They struggle. I'll give them a 2-1 win. And then last match, we have two heavy hitters. We got Gotham at Utah. After what happened in last week's match, Utah Royals absolutely cannot afford to drop another one, especially here where a Gotham victory would put them back up ahead of them. So my guess is this is a Utah redemption. I'm going to say they take a 1-0 victory. It's going to be just a difficult match all around. It's going to be very dicey. But I'm going to give it to them. I think Utah gets themselves back on track, kind of holds Gotham down in that lower tier of opponents, where they're sitting more in that 7 range, where the teams that are surging might be able to get back into this mix. So we'll see if that ends up being true. Another clash of the upper 7 happens at the start of Saturday. That would be North Carolina and Washington. This is a match I'm very disappointed I won't be able to see, but I'll be at a matchup live that day. But North Carolina finally starting to look like a real powerhouse, like I thought they were going to. But they have had trouble being consistent, and that is not going to work for you when you're playing a team like Washington, who has been on fire lately. And I think that's going to come back as well here. Once again, I'm not going to give it straight up to Washington here, because I do think the best scorer right now is Ashley Sanchez. She has been on a bit of a tear. So what I will say is this one's going to go to a 2-2 draw. That'll be welcome news to a lot of teams in that upper 7, because that means 2 of your contenders are only walking away with a single point. So as this battle for the Shield comes into play, I think that's something that's also going to be notable. Which ones can hold to draws? And then the end of Saturday, I don't think I'll be back in time to actually live it, but if it's really competitive, maybe I'll slip in for the second half. We got San Diego Wave and Angel City going again. Very big matchup. Last time they played, Angel City had them outplayed for a while, but the second half really went San Diego's way. They came up with some goals they needed and got the win. Now this time it's going to be at Snapdragon. Much more hostile venue for the rival Angel City, but San Diego has never cleanly swept Angel City out of a season. Usually they hold their own at least once, and I think this is going to be the one. I'm going to say this match goes also to a 2-2 draw. I don't think Angel City is in a position where they can beat San Diego, but I believe they do get emotionally up to play this match just as much as San Diego does, and I think we'll see an even draw at this time around. Saturday is going to be very, very much deadlocked, I think. And again, that'll be welcome news for a lot of these contenders to see San Diego only get themselves up to 29 points here. One team in particular that's going to be very welcome for is Portland, who is going to face their Cascadia rival Seattle Reign on Sunday. Now this matchup, Very difficult one to call here, but I do believe that it favors Portland, who at this point will be looking at the match like we can be back in first here. We can get to 30. If the first team in the league to 30, we've got a competitive edge here. Seattle is looking off. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to dominate Seattle the way that they want to. I think Seattle gives them a very tough match. But I do believe Portland comes away with a 1-0 victory, and that will put the Thorns into the top position on the table before this weekend is over. And then lastly, we've got two teams that are just chomping at the bit for someone to fall off here. Denver and Houston. This game being held at Mile High. Definitely, Dash have proven more capable than I thought they would. But I do think there is a gap in skill here. I think Denver is the better team. I'm going to give them a 2-1 victory. And assuming that ends up being the case, that would put Denver up to 18 points. They would have a positive goal differential. That would allow them to jump both Angel City and Orlando. So, at least for this week, I would position Denver as the 8th team in the playoffs. Now, with that said, that would be far from a permanent condition. Already, from what we've just mentioned, Gotham would still be pinned down at 21 points. Denver would be 3 points back at 18. You'd be looking at Orlando and Angel City at 17 each. So, getting very tight. Oh, and North Carolina at 22 with their draw. So, what you'd be looking at potentially is about a 5-point separation between 7th place in the league, 6th place in the league, actually, and the second team out. So, that's kind of where we're sitting right now in terms of the league. I think we've got a really tight race, but as they start to play each other more and more, you're going to see some of them fall out of that category and move into a fight where they're trying to retain against the teams challenging. Because they're going to start matching up with the lower tier opponents as well. They're going to rack up points. So there's a lot of room for movement here as we get closer and closer to the halfway point of the season. I believe next week it should be the actual halfway point. Like, I'm not going to say this week is, because still like half the league won't be at 15 matches, but nearly everyone will be, and a few will be past it by next week. So yeah, we're gonna be talking second half struggles here in the coming weeks. But for now, that's our previews. Enjoy the matches that you get to watch. Hopefully I'll be in good mood here fairly soon. Go Angels!